Hey guys, welcome back to the Artistic Equestrian, and in this week's episode, I get to sit down to someone I have admired for as long as I can remember, Georgie Turner. Georgie is an incredibly talented equestrian artist, most known for her nosy-posy drawings, which, as you can imagine, is a horse's nose in all its sort of vibrance and crazy nature. I think I need to get one of Rainer actually, guys. But the reason why I love Georgie the most is because of her authentic nature and infectious energy. But on top of all this, she is a horsewoman herself, an entrepreneur, and a mum to her daughter who's under 2. I don't know how she does it. But I really hope you all enjoy this week's episode and chat with Georgie. So, welcome Georgie to the chat. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It feels a little bit surreal. But yeah, I love your nosy posy drawings. They're so cute. So I've been following you since I first started drawing, which I started back in 2020, but then at the end of last year when I stopped riding my horse Queenie because she's on a break, and then I got into drawing because I couldn't ride, and then I started drawing horses, and I love horses, and then I found your content because you're specialised in sort of equestrian sort of stuff. But what got you into creating art, and in particular the horse world?
So I've been doing art ever since I was young. Like, I've always drawn horses, and I suppose it's because when you horses are so addictive, aren't they? And yes. you can be, if you are a horsey person and you own horses especially, they are just so addictive. And then I think when I started doing my art as a business, I wanted to kind of have the connection to the horses when I wasn't actually with them, because I used to, when I was younger, and it was the school holidays, I would spend every single day doing something with the horses. We were lucky enough to have the horses at home when I was younger, and I would be with them all the time. But then now that I live about 5 minutes away from my mum's house, which is where I grew up, where the horses are. So I'm still very close, but I was still my house is kind of distant to the horses. And I think it's nice that when I started my art business, I wanted to still feel connected to the horses, even though I wasn't in that environment, if that makes sense. And I like having equestrian decor and trying to, my husband isn't horsey in the slightest bit. So I have this horsey world where I go and I get covered in hair and I'm always horsey. And then I come home and he's allergic and I have to be clean and not walk around in my mucky clothes and stuff. And it's very different from my horse world, if that makes sense. But it's nice being able to draw horses and put horses into my home environment. That isn't really, I don't know if I answered that very well, but that's kind of why I wanted to draw them. It was connecting the horse world to my home life.
Yeah, and you can also take art with you everywhere, and it doesn't always have to be in that one specific place. But what would you say your favourite equestrian memory is?
I was thinking about this when you sent the questions, because I have so many memories. Not all of them are particularly amazing. Some of them, what you remember all the ones, you remember the accidents, you remember when you broke your arm and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I was really thinking about it this morning, and I was obviously the first time I got my first pony was, I remember I was in the car with my mum. I think we must have been going to a doctor's appointment or something, because I was at primary school, and mum got a phone call. And I was listening to the phone call, and she got off the phone because they mentioned something about a pony. And I was like, "What was that, Mum?" And then she was like, "Oh, well, I was going to wait and surprise you, but I found a pony for you." And I was about 10. So I had spent a long time just kind of riding other people's horses. And she wanted to make sure I was really invested in them before she got me my first one. So obviously getting my first pony called Louis. And then there was a memory when I don't know whether in Australia you do pony club camps, when you take your horse and...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, on that pony club thing when you just said, oh, butt in for a second, sorry. But when you said you're breaking elbow stories and stuff, It wasn't, it was at a wet weather pony club muster, so there were no horses and we were playing games on ground at the pony club muster. Anyway, I slipped over on wet grass and shattered my elbow, and I have it's like held together with 3 pins, and it was like a year off riding, but I wasn't even riding at the pony club, but it was at a pony club muster. Anyway, you keep going.
Quite a couple of like really fun years on my pony Louis, and then there was a time where me and my sister were kind of sharing him, and I was starting to get a bit bigger and I was kind of outgrowing him, but there was this one year where we brought him in about to get him ready for pony club camp, and my mum was like, I think he's lame, and we put him on the lunge, and I was like, oh, what am I going to do? I can't go to camp now. Like, I was really gutted. And then mum just went, why didn't you take Basil? And Basil was a 16-2 Irish draft, big horse. And I was used to riding Louis, who was a 14-2 Cobby pony. And I was like, oh, that would be quite fun. And I remember just rocking up to Pony Club camp with this huge grey horse who was just an absolute angel. And yeah, I just had like the most fun weekend because most fun week because I had this horse that I would never have even dreamed that I would be riding. And we did, Chase Me Charlie and won because he was towering above all the other ponies. Like it was just one of those memories that I will always look back on. And Basil was born before me, and my mum homebred him. So he died age 32. And like, I've literally been with him all my life. Like he's been around before I was born. So yeah, it was just really special taking Basil to that camp.
Yeah, sometimes everything really does happen for a reason. Like if your horse hadn't have gone lame, you wouldn't have taken Basil, and then you wouldn't have got that good memory. And yeah. How would you say equestrian sort of feed it into a creativity sort of side?
I think I originally started just wanting to draw, pretty sides of horses where, just a side profile or a pretty picture, because like I said at the beginning, trying to like connecting my horse world to my like home life and having nice pictures of them and drawing them. But I think now because I'm always trying to push myself and think of like different ways to create. I like drawing or creating things that are a little bit unusual. So I remember once I drew a pair of wellies in like splashing through a puddle because I was like, I want to draw things that are not necessarily pretty, that it's like it's real life and connected to the horse world. Yeah, that's why the Nosy Ponies kind of like became really like one of my best things, because it wasn't like necessarily a pretty picture, it was just a relatable picture. And I've got loads of reference photos that I always take, and I've not done any of the drawings, and they're things like I've got a picture of a hoof oil pot, and the brush is like you're sitting on it, and the hoof oil is like dripping onto like the floor. And I just thought it's little things like that. Like I love taking snippets of the life around country living and the life around horses, and then creating slightly unusual artwork, which is just challenging people's perceptions of it. And it's not all about having pretty portraits. It is about like thinking about the entire life and those little tiny moments in horse and country life that you completely pass by. And that's what I want to put into my art. So that's how it really kind of influences me now.
Yeah, because I can also sort of see, I'm like looking across my studio at the moment. I've just got pictures of hoof picks, like 5 of the same one of different pencils. Anyway, that's besides the point. But when you have like art in your room and sort of stuff, you don't always just want a bazillion drawings of your pony's head. You want the things that sort of tell the story of what it's like in everyday life and all that stuff. I know at visual art last year for school, I don't do art anymore because it clashes with subjects, but I drew like a boot on a bale of hay. And because in visual art at school, they like it was like a still life. That's what it was. It's not good now. I never showed anyone online because I don't really like it. But yeah, sort of things that tell a story.
I remember even in year 7, and they said, bring in items that represent you. And I literally brought in like a riding hat, boots, a whip, a rosette, like anything that kind of represented horses. And I remember walking into school thinking, I'm going to be called such a geek, me and my horsey things. And I probably would. I was like proper like horsey art girl geek, and I still am that person. But that's literally what I do now. Is like I think about things that represent my life and try and put that into art, because it's just fun to do something different as well.
Yeah, that's definitely what I'm probably known as, the crazy horse art girl. I've always got my sketchbook in my hands, carrying it around everywhere, have it at lunch, any time I get to draw. But how old were you, do you think, when you first started getting into art? And like, what medium was the first thing you got into?
Art ever since I can remember. I remember my dad used to do, he called them Art Attack Sundays, because there was this program called Art Attack, and he would kind of use those, and we would kind of, it would be the most random art things that they would show on this TV program. Then we try and recreate them on the Sundays that I was with him, because my parents were divorced, so I spent every other weekend. If I was with my dad, we were doing other activities and arty stuff. And then if I was with my mum, we were doing horsey stuff. So I was very arty with my dad. And so I was always doing creative things. At school, when I was doing A-level, we only really ever painted. So I only did acrylics and a bit of oil pastel. And then it wasn't until I was doing teaching, which is when I got into colour pencil, because teachers don't have much funding, so you tend to go for the cheaper option, which is pencils. So I got really good at colour pencil because I was teaching it to students. And then about 2020, when we had the lockdown, that was when I started doing more and more of my own art, and that's where it's kind of spiraled from. And I still really like doing, I got into pastels this year because I wanted to do something a little bit different. And I do like experimenting with different mediums. I love doing oil paintings, but they take a long time. And because I've got a toddler, oil paintings just don't really feel the most safe thing to have, because my studio is part of the house. It's just open as part of the house. And if I had oil paintings out, which would take forever to dry, and I had a toddler around, it's just a bit like, it's too much admin to try and have a toddler in oil paintings. So that might be something that I pick up in the future. But yeah, I like experimenting with different mediums, but always coming back to the same niche, which is the horses and countryside.
Yeah, I've been I just don't think coloured pencils for me. It takes way too long, and I do not have the attention span to stay on the one thing. So I've started to do pastels. But you know how you said that TV program that you used to watch? It'd be so cool if there was something like that these days. There's actually so many artists on social media, and it would be so cool if there was like a series like that. Yeah. Someone needs to start that, I think. It would be really cool. No, you should. Like, it would actually be so cool. Like, fun, like, little challenge, and it just goes on, like, YouTube or something. I can't remember who it's called. There's someone on YouTube that does it with, like, painting and sculptures and stuff. I have a mind blank, but, yeah, something like that would be so... Like, it would actually be so cool, like a challenge, like... Oh, yeah, you should start that. How did you turn a hobby into an actual business? So I know you have your podcast, and then obviously you've got your custom commissions and all your prints and all that stuff. But how did you even turn your hobby into a business?
So I started in 2020 was when I was, I had a bit more time in my hands, and I wanted to do some more drawings. And it was a colleague at my previous school was the first one that said, would you do a drawing of my daughter's puppy? And then I was like, I think I just put that on Facebook, and then I got some interest from friends of friends, my mum's friends, for example. They started saying, oh, would you do my dog? And then I kind of realized that I could actually I can make money from my art. And it kind of at the time I was already sick of teaching. I was never really born to be a teacher. I like the teaching. I just don't like the other side of it. Like, put me in a classroom with students, that's fine, but the rest of it I don't want to deal with. So I was already a little bit sick of teaching by then, and I kept thinking, is this a way out? I was like, is this a way out of my teaching? And I think that kind of sparked in me, you know, I could actually make this into a business. But it did take another 5 years before I actually ended up quitting my job, because in that time I got married, I had a baby, maternity leave, I went to New York for about 7 weeks. So it was a very slow burner, but I think it was quite early on that I decided that it was going to become a business rather than just a hobby. But yeah, it just took a bit of time, and it was all about experimenting. So it started off very much with the commissions. And at first I thought, oh, I'm just going to be a pet portrait artist. And then I realized that I wanted a bit more than that. So it wasn't until I was on maternity leave, and when I was pregnant and then I was on maternity leave, that I started doing original pieces. And yeah, I think I had a couple of sales, and then it's just kind of spiraled from there, really. But it was quite early on that I just decided, yeah, I'm going to do this to get out of teaching. And then it became more of I'm so passionate about it. And then it's happened now. So I'm now full time.
I never I don't ever plan on having like my drawing and all that to be my business. I'm definitely not good enough for that. But I've like started doing YouTube in like 2020, and then I did like constant videos. Do not go back and look at them. They're terrible. Yeah. But anyway, I just sort of like making content and like recording podcasts, and then the drawing side of thing is just like something to do with me. Like, it's just who I am. Like, I'm in grade 11 at school, and then I'm doing a business diploma because I want to do business, but I also want to do graphic design, like, together. And then, like, I don't know, that's sort of like where I want to go. And then, like, this could be like something cool with the graphic design or something. I don't know, but it's like weird to see like what art can take people. Like, obviously when you were my age, you were probably a lot better at art than I am, but like when you were my age, looking back at how old you are now, I'm not saying you're old, but like looking at where you are now, you'd be like, I could never do that, if that makes sense. So I guess it's all that, like, yeah.
So I'm 32 now, so I don't know how long ago I was in school, but social media wasn't huge. I mean, Instagram was, when I was at uni, it was kind of just starting to like come through, really. So when I was at school, we were never encouraged that art could be a viable career at all. It was never really even discussed. It was, go to uni, and I mean, they encouraged us to go to uni, and my teacher wanted me to do fine art. I did graphics, but I should have done fine art. First day, I was like, damn, I should have listened to my teacher. I think I should have done fine art, but I stuck at it because I wasn't very good at changing, and I really like my friends and everything. So, but I don't regret it because I learned a lot. And I don't know whether if I'd done fine art, whether I would still be doing a fine art now. It might have put me off. You just never know. So I don't regret it, but I never thought that I could have a career in art unless I was, a famous artist in a gallery. Like, it was never really a thing. But now that social media has given artists a platform to sell directly to customers rather than having to go through a gallery or anything like that, like, you don't have to be a gallery artist anymore or represented by anybody to make money. So I think that's what helped her. I've forgotten what your original question was now. It's gone out of my head.
I honestly can't remember either.
But anyway, so yeah, when I was at school, I never even thought about it. So I assumed that I'd need to go and do like something more kind of academic in a way. And I kind of thought graphic design was that. I think in hindsight, I should have gone and done business, because I really enjoyed business A level, but I wasn't.
Yeah, I like business.
Yeah, and like, I think
that's my brain.
Yeah, I think that would have helped me. But then then again, when I became a teacher, it was my graphic design degree that got me the place as an art teacher. Whereas if I'd done a business degree, I might not have been able to have gone and do a PGCE and become an art teacher. I might have just been stuck. So I don't know, there's so many little bits of your life, and you think, even though I might have not have done the right degree, would it actually, I don't know if I'd done something different, whether I would be here now. So you just never know. Like, I don't know, when you're making decisions about your life, I think it is important to kind of think long term, but also not thinking too far ahead, because if I was absolutely adamant that I was going to do something kind of creative, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. So like going and doing a creative degree that was kind of what I was just imagining. I don't really know what I wanted to do. And then when I was in graphic design, I wanted at some point to be a furniture upcycler, a wedding dress designer, just anything that was like creative. And I could not have predicted that it would have led me to this point, but I'm just so glad that it did. So,
do you ever find like drawing and all that, you know, the stuff that's involved with running your business feels like more like a chore, like, you know, you're going to work rather than a hobby, and it just comes easy kind of?
Say that because, you know, things like when my daughter wants to sit down and draw with me, I'm like, oh, I was like, no, that's my job. So sometimes, yes, it does feel a bit like a chore, but not a chore. And I don't begrudge it. I do enjoy it. But sometimes when you're up against a deadline, like I've got, you know, commission deadlines, and it does sometimes feel like you're just a bit of a workhorse. But then again, I always do it, and I have to stop myself and think, this is your job. You get to sit in your home all day long, well, for 3 days a week, and draw. So I do sometimes get a little bit tired of it. And that's why I like the business side, because it's nice to do a bit of drawing and then a bit of admin, and it breaks up the day. Whereas if I was just churning out work, I think I would begrudge it more. But I do often just stop myself when I'm feeling a bit stressed and be like, just remember that this is your job and this is what you dreamed of, and you could be doing a lot worse. So yeah.
I think that's probably also like part of that is like the reason why I feel like I don't ever want to just solely become an artist is I can't like stay focused on the same thing. And like, you know, at school, how you like have to do something, I just like don't want to do it. But like when I get to choose to do it, I'm like all for it. Like it's a bit of, you know, you've got to have a good mindset for it all. But like, if I don't want to do something, it's so much harder to do. And if you have to do something, it's so much harder to do than if you just get to pick. Go do that.
Yeah,
that really makes no sense.
No,
but
it does.
Yeah.
It does, because I have commissions where I have to do what the client wants me to do. And that's a different mindset to when I want to create something like I did a horseshoe recently for.
I love it. I'm like, it's if you lived closer, I would definitely be buying a print. But to get it shipped over here, it's quite a bit. I did it. I have been like looking at all your prints, being like, oh yeah. I'm like, oh. I like I can't remember what it's called, but the boots in the pastels, I think it is.
The one with the blue background.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, it's on my wall.
I love that one. Yeah.
Interesting, because like when I'm doing commissions and you're having to create, that's like I say, that's a very different mindset. That's more of a mindset of, I want to make this person really happy. Whereas when I'm doing things like the horseshoe, that's a little bit more freeing, and it's like I don't really know what the outcome of this is going to be, and I get to be more creative. So that is a different mindset as well, and I like having both. I think that's why I very much change my materials a lot, because I have very different personalities. Like my color pencil is clean and it's detailed, and I know what I'm doing, and there's I just kind of like focus and I try and do the best job that I can. Whereas if I'm using pastels, or I'm using my newly acrylics, which I think I'll do more of, and the palette knives, like I'm going to enjoy doing, I enjoy like the creativity and the freedom of that as well. So I like having both sides of it.
Did you know the horseshoe that you were talking about? Did you make that one out of the acrylics? Is it like a stamp shoe? Is it like a shoe from one of your horses stamped down to get the base of it?
It was just, I just painted a horseshoe.
Wait.
I painted
thought
it.
like the horse.
Painted that in acrylic, and then I added like I used my palette knife to add like loads of texture onto it. So yeah.
I honestly thought it was a horseshoe, right? With paint stuck like down, and then you like added to it after the horse put it. I was like, how would you manage to do that? Because it looks so perfect. I was like, how can you manage to do that? But that makes a lot more sense.
But yeah, I really enjoyed doing that. It was nice to do something a bit different.
Do you reckon you could also do that with like commissions of other people's shoes, or that would be just like too hard to get the right shoe shape?
Be possible. I just don't know whether people would. I just don't know whether people would want it or not. But yeah, it's definitely something because everybody's. I mean, I couldn't tell you what the shape of my horse's hoof is because she doesn't have shoes. But if you've got shoes, you know, and you look at different. I remember I got my farrier to give me a load of different horseshoes once, and I basically used to weave beads into horseshoes. And that was something that I did like when I was thinking about doing wedding stuff, was that it was a nice kind of wedding present, was to give a horseshoe, a real horseshoe. And I used to weave like beads and ribbons and everything into it. And the vast difference between, you know, several different horseshoes was incredible. So I think, you know, it could be a potential commission, but I'm not sure whether they're unique enough for the, like, I wouldn't be able to tell, like, unless it was a tiny little diddy horseshoe compared to a big one. Like, my horse's hoof is just, I don't know what it is. So I don't know whether it'd be unique enough to be a commission.
I think because I look at my pony's feet so often, I don't know, there's just something about it. You know how like you've got a dog's paw print? And then like, I don't know, I just love having my horse's shoes. It just like, it's that, you know, I just have them in my room, clean obviously, but it's like a part of them inside.
No, I mean, the horseshoe that I drew or I painted for that, I think was my old horse's shoe. Because I basically, I've got a curtain on my stairs, and the tie back is a bit.
We've got them.
Have you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
When you walk into someone's house, you can definitely tell if they're an equestrian or like curtains tied back with bits, and then we've just got random stirrupines places and stirrup leathers, and it's just like you can tell it's a horse girl's house. Oh, and just, you know, random bits of hay, and if you hop into a horse girl's car, the amount of hay in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to get clean.
No, my car is awful.
Yeah. Well, that's all the points, I think, other than our closing for the podcast. Is there anything else you want to like chat about or anything? Any questions?
I suppose I've done a lot of work recently on my mindset, because I've realised that even though being a full-time artist was always my dream, it's really, really lonely. And there's been like some points this year where I've felt really, really down. And it's hard because I'm like, I chose this life. I didn't want to be in a school anymore, but I actually also really miss I really miss colleagues. I really miss that kind of social interaction. So it's just like a mindset thing that I've been working on recently, is making sure that I am not letting myself wallow in kind of like when I'm getting really down, and always pick out the positives of a day, even if they seem quite minor, and writing down a list of like what's gone well in that day to make sure that I'm not like letting myself feel lonely. And I've spoken to other artists as well who felt the same, and they've gone back to a job part-time just so they've got the interaction. So I think it's just a side of running your own business that you don't really see unless you're in it. But yeah, apart from that, I think, you know, being a full-time artist has been wonderful, and business is very difficult to kind of maintain, and there's always ups and downs, and social media as well is such a highlights reel. And, you know, people are obviously saying, oh, you're flying, you're doing really well. And I'm thinking, I am doing really well, But there's so much more to it than just like what I put out on social media. And I think it's important if people are find an artist that they like or find somebody that they like online, that you're only seeing, you know, a 10% snippet of their life really, and you're not seeing all the rest of it. And it's important not to compare yourself to other people online, because you're only seeing such a small percentage of it.
It's also like if having your own business was so easy that people might think it is because all the highlights get put on social media, then everyone would have their own business if it was that easy. Like it takes someone to have the someone to persevere through the tough times and tough days to get that end 10% snapshot onto social media.
I was speaking to another artist, and I can't remember what the percentage is, but they do say on like all these business podcasts, you know, 80% of businesses fail. And I think they only fail because when you hit a brick wall or you hit a hard time, that like it's the people that are really passionate about their own business that they keep going. Whereas some people would hit a brick wall and then decide to start again or start something different. But there are so many like brick walls that you hit in business, and you just have to persevere. And it is the hardest thing. Like emotionally it is the hardest thing. Financially it is the hardest thing. But I think if you've got a passion for something, that there's no reason why you can't do it. And, you know, yeah, it's been wonderful, but also hard as well.
Yeah, sometimes all it takes is the first step. So like if something bad happens, like working through that, and then like, yeah, each step, you never know what that step could lead you to. And sort of with that, if there was any advice you would give to your younger self, what would it be? So like I'm 16 years younger than you. So like yourself in high school, what would you want to get told?
I mean, I think, it's really hard because I don't want it to be like, oh, don't let what people think of you, stop caring about what people think of you, like all those kind of like those sort of self-reflection things, which I would be saying to my younger self, I would be saying to my daughter, but I would be a hypocrite because I still think them now, even though I'm a lot more confident now. But I suppose, you know, it would be, you know, what you're doing right now, everything you're doing right now, or what you currently think is bad about your life right now, is actually going to be what makes you stand out in the future. Even though when you're at school and you're a lot less self-assured, you don't want to hear that because, you know, like I say, I was the geeky art girl with the frizzy hair that just, you know, was really, really worried about when I was younger. I now use as like my authentic self. That's what people like me for.
Yeah.
And it's easier when you've got, you know, when you're in a stable relationship and, you know, I've got a wonderful husband and I've got everything that I ever dreamed of. You know, I always just dreamed about having a husband, having a family, and I've got that. And I think when you've got those, it's easier to kind of feel more confident in yourself. But I just wish I could just not have been so worried about all those things that I thought I thought I needed to change about myself, whereas actually I use those things now as to be authentic and to be myself and to be different. So yeah, I suppose it would be something like that. And also consider your choices about doing graphics. But like I said earlier, you never know where my life would have taken me if I hadn't done graphics. So yeah.
Yeah. Because like for me, looking back at years 7, 8, 9, I was as shy as anything. And like I was obsessed with my hair being full on slick back, like gel. It took me like the whole car trip to school, which was like half an hour, to get my hair done because it had to be perfect. But now I could not care less. I don't even brush it because it's so curly. If you don't like, sorry, that's my reminder telling me it's bedtime. But if I brush it, it just goes poof poof. So I never brush it. And I just like chuck it in a ponytail. Yeah, it's too much effort with curly hair.
No, I know.
People that have straight hair have it easy.
And I just can't be bothered. Like I'm so short on time every single day. Why would I not? I wouldn't go to the horses in the morning, come back, spend an hour getting ready to do 5 hours of work, whereas I could just do 6 hours of work and just not care about my appearance. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't have time to really care. But I also I'm so confident in myself that I'm happy like going on social media without any makeup on now. Like, whereas I wouldn't have done that when I was younger at all. But I'm like, don't care.
One thing I have to do, one thing I do have to do after doing the pony, so is have a shower. I can't go to school without that. Otherwise I'll smell like horse wee. My pony Quinny, oh my gosh, her wee is so bad. It like goes outside the stable and cleaning it. It's like 3 wheelbarrows every morning plus Rainers. It's terrible and it stinks.
The top with their bedding, aren't they? And like, why do you have to be so...
Yeah. She's obsessed with her stable. Like, she only ever wants to go in there. She's always at the gate. You can't look at her, otherwise she wants to go inside. She just loves her paddock. Yeah.
Yeah, no, well, it's been lovely talking to you.
Yeah, you too. Where can the listeners find everything about you?
So my website is georgieturnerartist.co.uk. Basically all of my Instagram, my Facebook, YouTube handles are all Georgie Turner Artist. And then I have a Creative Mentoring by Georgie Instagram account, which is where I'm trying to start another side of my business, because I'm obviously a workaholic, and help other artists achieve what I've managed to achieve so far in terms of becoming full-time. So if you are wanting kind of like more businessy side of it, then I'm trying to build that side of my business. But everything is really Georgie Turner Artist on TikTok as well. I'm on TikTok too. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Georgie, for coming on the pod today. I'm really excited. And yeah, I just love all your work.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Speak soon. Bye.
Bye.